I get so frustrated when I hear these terrible gridlock stories.
Well, it's a great question, and obviously everybody is looking at this whole fiscal cliff, issue, and how it seemed like Congress was just kind of redoing Selma and Louise, that everybody was going to go over the cliff, and we just take the consequences. And clearly, the challenge is, what do we try to do to change this, both in terms of communicating with our senators and our congresspeople and others? If you ask me, the single most important thing that I'm trying to be part of in the United States Senate is to show that it is possible for an elected official to keep their principles and still work in a bipartisan way to solve problems. That is probably the single most important thing I want to convey. Involved was in the name of fighting piracy, which is important to do. Piracy means that you're selling a movie that you don't own, or you're selling fake Nikes, or tainted Viagra, or something that's, fake. Okay? I think I made my point. But to do it, they wanted to unravel the architecture of the internet, and particularly do damage. Everybody here know what the domain name system's all about? The domain name system is essentially the phone book for the internet. That's sort of how you get into the system. They wanted to damage that. I blocked that legislation. I blocked the predecessor of it. And just about a year ago, it was one of the most satisfying moments of my time in public life, when nobody thought we could win. All of Hollywood and all these big interests were lined up, and they said, we've got to fight piracy, we've got to make these changes in the internet. Just under a year ago, 15 million Americans, maybe you, because you're up on the issues, sent emails and called their congresspeople and said, do not vote to override Ron Wyden's block on this legislation, and we won. It's really a third force now in American politics.
Thank you for coming. And my question is about the filibuster reform.
Yes.
And your fellow senator from Oregon is helping to spearhead that. And I want to know whether you think it's going to be passed and if it will not be watered down. So I think in order for the Senate to work together a little bit better, the filibuster reform is very important in a non-watered down form.
Yeah. Senator Merkley, my colleague from Oregon, is really focused on the right thing. What he wants to do is say that a senator who wishes to procedurally block something, just the way I did with the PIPA and SOPA issue that I just mentioned, that person should have to personally show up and do it. And I think he's on to the basic, principle of accountability and making sure that, senators that want to exercise these extraordinary rights would have to do it, themselves. Now, the situation, as you've been reading and seeing, is very much evolving with Harry Reid and Mitch McConnell trying to see if they can work something out. I do think that every possible step has got to be made in order to make this bipartisan.
Are you familiar with No Child Left Inside?
Talking about mental health?
No, it's to get kids outside. It's been wavering in Washington for many years.
Is this one of the First Lady's programs?
No, I think it's been there. It's been wavering for years and years. And Oregon has passed a No Child Left Inside, some legislation. And if it passes at the federal level, there's money attached to it. So I'm wondering if that's something that you might be interested in researching. And
I better follow it up so it doesn't keep wavering.
yeah, that'd be great. And in Corvallis, we have written a large EPA grant to help get, in conjunction with OSU and the city and some natural resource agencies. And we're hoping to get that. It's a competitive grant. But I'm wondering, do you know who will replace Lisa Jackson and what will be happening with
No,
her position?
Lisa Jackson folks, is the head of the Environmental Protection Agency that has just resigned, and she, and probably Secretary Chu, the Secretary of Energy, who's indicated that he is likely to leave. We'll probably get those appointments coming up.